So the last couple of days, if there's one child that has been through a roller coaster of emotions, of joy, of sadness, it's been Fresh Kid. From him being invited to Dubai, to the US, and parents struggling between who is he going with, why shouldn't he go with me and all. It's been tears, and the fans, the followers have also had their take on it. Parents have also had their take on it. So have I. But the one thing that I keep saying, I'll constantly say, is he's a child. He's literally 1 year younger than my children. So he's a child. Let's always bear that in mind. His interests should be what we think about first. And that brings me to today's topic. Now, today's guest has been through a roller coaster of emotions and continues to go through those emotions for the last couple of years. Now, she's a mother, and today we're going to talk about her story. It's a very sad story. So my guest today is called Marai. But today, for purposes of the conversation we're going to have, I'm going to call her Mama Sophia, if she permits me to do so. You're so welcome to the show. You're welcome to the chat room. I prefer to call you Mama Sophia because just like the way I talk to my boys, they always call me Mama and Mama. I feel the attachment's even more stronger than. Welcome. Again, welcome. Now, when I heard about your story, it said so many emotions through me. I couldn't sleep. I was calling my children's metron. Are they okay? It's like it just awoke the senses of a mother, of my attachment to my children. But now let's go to Sophia. Sophia is the reason we're here today. And Sophia is the reason you're in the country. But we'll go back to how long you've been in the country or when you first came to the country. We'll talk about that a little later on. For now, I want us to talk about Sophia. Who is Sophia? Let's tell people about Sophia. I've learned a little about Sophia, but let's share Sophia with everybody else. Who is Sophia?
Well, Sophia is my daughter, my firstborn child. I have 2 sons as well. Sophia is a medical student. And she came to Uganda in August of 2015. She had acquired her Bachelor of Medicine, and she was coming to Uganda to work as an intern at Rubaga Hospital for 8 weeks. She had decided to take a gap year between her bachelor and getting her Master's of Medicine. She had also around that time decided, after acquiring her Master's, to become a tropical doctor.
Okay.
After that. Now, she thoroughly enjoyed being here. She had traveled primarily in Europe. She'd been to Thailand once, but Africa was a totally new experience.
What were your thoughts about it when she told you her choice of where she wanted to go to do her?
Well, her father and we actually encouraged her. I, by nature, am a traveler. I'm an adventurous person. I always tell my children, go explore the world, see what life is like elsewhere. And also, you know, some people tend to complain about their own country, but when you travel, you see there is not all that much to complain about the country where we live, in the Netherlands. Now, Sophia would send us extensive weekly report
of what was going of
what she was doing. Yeah. And I should very much, because I would like to introduce Sophia, 21 years old at the time, I would like to introduce her somewhat to your viewers.
Okay.
And so I would very much like, with your permission, to read some excerpts from her weekly reports.
We would like to share her days. Yes, we would.
So when she had only been here a few days, she wrote, "The streets are very crowded. Cars seem to drive randomly in a disorderly way. So I certainly would not drive here myself.
That's Kampala.
There are also a lot of traffic jams. At one point, we were practically standing still and surrounded by small children who begged for money. One of the children was even carrying a baby on her back." which she clearly thought was quite shocking. She had never seen that before. And then she writes, I have learned some more Luganda now.
Yeah.
Sophia very much wants to learn as much as she can. She's very eager to learn new things. So she says, she writes, if you say Oliocha, which means hello, how are you, to the local people, they really like that.
Yeah.
Things like webale, thank you, or ndebulunji, I'm fine, or sulabulunji, good night, are really good to know. And a few weeks, when she's been here for a few weeks, she's at a party and she writes later on, the girls here are truly exceptional dancers. Jojo taught me her killer moves and I tried them out immediately. The reaction was, huh? Sophia is dancing like an African girl?
Yeah.
And then a little bit later again, wow, almost 1.5 weeks has passed without me writing anything. Not because nothing happened, but rather because of an overload of new impressions and things that happen. I'm starting to get used to Uganda now, more and more. The way of life, the habits. I'm almost considering simply staying in Africa because, geez, it's so relaxed here. And on October 14, that was my first day in Kampala because I came here to visit Sophia. And she wrote, today my mother came to the hospital in the late afternoon. I gave her a tour and then we went to the MC house where she met everyone. She has brought a lot of goodies from home, caramel wafers, chocolate and licorice to treat everyone. And on October 16, she writes, Mom had her birthday today. We went to the National Theatre to see a very special dance performance. The performers were children with all sorts of handicaps. Some were blind or deaf. Several were really great dancers, and I was touched to see how those handicapped children enjoyed performing for us. Afterwards, I took my mum for a birthday dinner at an Indian restaurant nearby. Good food, but too much for us to finish. Most of her reports are about her work at Rubaga Hospital, that she was really, really enjoying a lot. And she writes, the next day was an interesting day on the maternity ward. I spent all day on labor ward and was really useful. Midwife Christine taught me how to catch a baby after delivery.
Wow.
This was harder than I thought, but Christine guided me. After that, I took the baby away for postnatal care. I was allowed to do this several times. It's so nice to do these for these tiny creatures, and it's really great to be useful.
Okay.
And then Sophia also writes, on labor ward, I did very interesting things again. I did a placenta delivery under supervision and with a bit of help by Christine. This was really cool to do. And then her last entry was written on October the 22nd. Before we left, I really wanted to say a warm goodbye to everyone in the hospital. We gave away our medical splash goggles, and midwives and surgeons were really happy with them. Our white coats we gave to Christine, who was really eager to have them. I sincerely regret my stay here is over. All the people in the hospital are so sweet. I will really miss them and hope to be back one day. Who knows, as a doctor of tropical medicine. The next day, Sophia starts on a round trip through Uganda, and 6 days later, on Wednesday, October the 28th, she disappears. Until this day.
Okay. So I needed a mother to let you in on who her child was. That's why we were going through Sophia's excerpts from her diary that she entered in the dates that you put to us. But what do you do when the last time you see your child is them on a phone walking out? Or what do you do when the last time you see your child is in the morning as she's probably going to school or going to work, and your child disappears. 3 years down the road, you still have no answer, no closure. No one has given you an answer. I mean, an answer that makes sense to a mother, an answer that will give a mother closure. Now, there's a statement that she made that the first time she came to Uganda, she wanted to come to Uganda. And the next number of times that she came to Uganda, she had to come to Uganda. So the last entry is of Sophia leaving Rubaga Hospital, where she had been an intern, to set off on a round trip before leaving Uganda back to the Netherlands. But Sophia was never seen again. Sophia has never been seen again. That trip was to where exactly?
It was literally a trip all around Uganda.
Different.
First they went to Mount Elgon, and then they went to Karamoja, and from Karamoja they went to Kidepo. From Kidepo they traveled to Gulu. From Gulu on to Pakwach and Murchison Park. And then they were supposed to go down south and go to Queen Elizabeth, go to Bwindi, see the gorillas, and then travel around again, I think, Lake Bunyoni. Okay. And then she was supposed to arrive back in Kampala on November the 7th or the 8th and travel back home on November the 9th.
Okay, so we're going to, in a few minutes, we're going to talk about when she was last heard from, or her last expected stop, or when she was last sighted. But before we go to that part of this, of her story, of a mother's story, a mother's pain, a mother's heartbreak, I remember her explaining to me, because like she said, you said something that was very true. It's only someone who has been in your shoes or who's been through this who can really understand. So we can only say, I can only understand because I don't know. But then you said it felt like somebody had ripped a piece of your heart and left a hole, a gaping hole in your heart. That is the explanation you gave, but I have no idea how it feels like. All I know is I can see the pain in her eyes, I can feel it in her voice. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the connection of a mother and a child, what this means to her, what this is doing to her, and why she keeps coming back to Uganda to find the answers. Still watching the chat room. So, of course, I needed a refill of a coffee and needed a kick of my coffee. But as we were going for the break, we were talking to Marian, and I hope I pronounced that right.
Yes,
Marian.
that's very good.
About Sophia. And I'm trying to understand what it is like to be in your position right now and how you've been dealing with it for the last couple of years. So the bond of a mother and a child, I know how I feel if, okay, well, my children is because they're stubborn, so I need to know where they are. But I'm imagining if my child disappeared even for an hour, let alone 3 years. How have you been dealing with that? Before we're going to go into the story of what happened to Sophia as far as Marian knows, right? But for now, let's talk about how you've been handling things for the past couple of years. How have you been managing? How have you been, from the first time, how has it been? Has it gotten harder? How is it?
I must say that is a very difficult question. I wonder myself, how have I managed for more than 3.5 years without knowing what happened to Sophia, where she is, if she's alive or not? It's, I think, some sort of an instinct takes over, maybe a motherly instinct, whatever you want to call it. And I am not someone by nature who will lie down and give up.
Yeah.
And it is, to me, it's unacceptable to not know where your child is or what happened with your child. You know, the bond between a mother and a child is very special. I am convinced fathers can have a very close and warm relationship with their children as well.
But it's different with mothers.
we women, we become, actually, I mean, I don't know if that's
Connected?
everyone's experience, but as soon as that child is born, you are a mother and you will always remain a mother. And I remember when my first child was born, I could not even imagine my life without that child. It is part of you. It's literally your flesh and blood. Some people believe that mothers have some sort of a sixth sense about their children.
We do. Oh, I do. We do.
And, you know, your child is being ripped out of your life. It is, as you said earlier, it is literally like something is ripped out of your body. It's like this big open wound that will not heal and that actually physically hurts.
Is it because you don't know what happened? Is it the actual...
Well, you
what
see,
feels...
I think the very worst thing that can happen to a human being is losing your child.
Okay.
Also, if you lose your child because of an accident or an illness, and you know your child is no longer with us, but we are in a situation that is different. We do not know if our loss is definitive or not. See, I personally, knowing my daughter, would not be surprised if she is somewhere. I do not know under what circumstances. You can only speculate about that. And I try not to do that too much because it could literally drive you crazy. And we are in a totally different situation. We want to know what happened, but we don't have a body. And to tell you the truth, I don't want a body. I want my daughter back. Yeah. The way we know her,
So,
you know.
And how is her father?
Well, Sophia's father seems to be coping reasonably. His life, at first view, doesn't seem to have been turned upside down the way my life has been turned upside down. But I do know he has trouble sleeping at night.
Yeah.
And, you know, we all get very emotional when we speak about Sophia. When it's her birthday, we come together with the four of us.
I was going to ask the things that you still do in her
And there's
memory.
this empty chair.
Yeah.
All these family outings, Christmas, for example. I remember the very first Christmas we had without Sophia. And I asked my sons, you know, what shall we do? Shall we just pretend there is no Christmas? And the youngest one said, well, I don't care. I really don't care. And then I spoke with the other one, Max is his name, and I said, you know what, Max, I've thought about it. And if we ignore Christmas, then it's like we're giving up.
Yeah.
And we cannot do that. And what if Sophia stands on the doorstep with Christmas and we haven't got a tree? I'm sure she will say, why don't you have a tree? That's ridiculous. So we must put up a tree. And I must say, I believe in miracles. They're very, very rare, but they do happen.
When you believe in them, yeah, they do.
In real life, sometimes the strangest things can happen, that if you put them in a movie or in a book, people will immediately say, oh, well, you know, that's not very realistic. That would never happen. I don't believe that. But in real life, stranger things happen than in fiction.
How has this changed you as a person?
My life has been really, literally been turned upside down. I can assure you that the plans for my future in the summer of 2015 were completely different. I have worked in journalism, I've worked in the film world, I also write, and my children were getting bigger and more independent. And I thought, I'm now finally going to try and be paid for what I like doing most, which is traveling, meeting new people, writing about it. I also do photography, and be paid to do that. That was my plan in the summer of 2015. And then my daughter disappeared. And what I've been doing since is I've turned into a private investigator. I've documented as much as possible. I've searched for people, I found people, I spoke with people. I've tried to get authorities moving. I used to go out to the theater a lot. I used to visit museums. I went to the movies. I read books. In all honesty, I have barely been able to read a book. I can't concentrate when I start after the end, at the bottom of the page.
Your mind goes away.
I've lost it. What did I read? I mean, I can really only read newspapers.
Okay, so as we're coming to the end of the second part of the chat room, there is a poem that you told me about, My Child and I. It's still about the bond of a mother and her child. And when you read such poems or when you hear people's stories, that's when you slowly kind of get a feeling of what the other person is going through, or what the mother is going through. But when we come back in the next segment, we'll be going into, I want to understand what has been going on, what has been done, or what the stories are, or the versions of what happened that you may know. But first, let's go to the poem, My Child and I.
This poem was sent to me by a friend who found it on the internet. And it is indeed my child and I. We are connected, my child and I, by an invisible cord not seen by the eye. The cord does its work right from the start. It binds us together, attached to my heart. The strength of this cord is hard to describe. It can't be destroyed, it can't be denied. It's stronger than any cord man could create. It withstands the test, can hold any weight. And though you are not here with me, the cord is still there, but no one can see. It pulls at my heart. I am bruised, I am sore. But this cord is my lifeline as never before. And it always moves me very much. It makes me very emotional when I read it.
Well, that's the bond of a mother who has not found closure, a mother whose heart has been ripped from her chest, a mother who's still looking for answers, a mother who won't rest until she finds out where her daughter is. Where is Sophia? Where are the answers? In the next few minutes, we're going to come back and talk about how the journey of the 3 years has been, from the moment that Sophia was last seen to now, what stories she's heard or what versions of what could have happened that she may know in just a bit. Okay, I would like to say thank you to Eliana Hotel for a beautiful set. And remember, every Thursday they've got a band. You can come and enjoy the rooftop, a sky view, and also some amazing barbecue. And remember, the 5th of July, they're going to have the silent disco right here in Chigoa at Eliana Hotel at the rooftop. Do not say I didn't tell you. So we're still here on the chat room, still talking to Marianne, and we're talking about Sophia, the disappearance of Sophia. What puzzled me and I wanted to know is how someone could disappear in a small space and nothing conclusive has been said for over 3 years. I don't know which doors have been opened and closed, but that's one thing that I'd like to know. So if you could just briefly just take us through whatever you know or you were told has happened through the 23rd, from the 23rd to now. What help have you got? What happened to Sophia? What were you told? As briefly as you can.
Yes, thank you. As I said before, Sophia disappeared on the 6th day of her trip.
Yeah.
And that was Wednesday, October 28th, 2015. It is not really clear what time she disappeared. It appears that it was very quickly after they arrived, at the student center in the park, which is a very low budget accommodation that is owned and run by Uganda Wildlife Authority. Anywhere between 6, they arrived there around 6, they'd taken a boat trip before, and anywhere between 6:15 and maybe 6:45, but it's not really clear. There are many things are not clear. We don't know exactly what happened in that time slot. The driver noticed he didn't see her anymore. A small search party was set up with some rangers. They looked in the direct vicinity of the student center. They called out her name. They didn't find anything.
And when was the police notified?
Well, according to the police themselves, they said they were notified at 8. I don't know by whom. Okay. But people who were present were not aware of any police activities. And of course, at 8 o'clock, it is dark there. So one can wonder what sort of activities they actually made. Now, the next morning, again, some rangers walked down in the direction of the river, and they found a water bottle filled with trash, some 5 meters away from the riverbank. According to her travel companions and the driver, that bottle belonged to Sophia. They would use that on the road in the car to put trash in. Nothing else was found that day, even though they said they really searched. Later on, I spoke with a ranger who was present that day, and he told me, in fact, that not a great deal was done that day. He said they were essentially sitting around discussing what to do. He said response was not fast.
And you were still in Kampala?
I was still in Kampala that day, frantically trying to figure out what to do, where to go. I had informed my embassy the evening, Wednesday evening late, that my daughter had gone missing. I traveled to Murchison Falls on Friday morning very early, and I arrived there at 12 o'clock. I was met by the 2 travel companions, and I heard from them that something had been found. I was aware, one of them kept telephone contact with me. I was aware of that bottle being found and nothing else. Then they told me that they were told something had been found, but they were not told what. So of course that gave me a big scare immediately. About half an hour later, some policemen came up to us and explained what had been found. And it was a very puzzling track of items, including a pair of knickers hanging high up in a tree. About rangers later said, it beats the understanding how it got there. A bunch of pieces of textile, some of them were attached to branches or that were on the ground. One shoe was found. A little purse was found underneath a tree that belonged to Sophia. I actually have a photograph of her with that purse, so I know for sure it's hers. Nice. Her sunglasses were found. This was all spread out over a distance of 45 meters. Very puzzling, along the riverbank. Now, these items were not far from that bottle. That bottle, as I said, was 5 meters away from the riverbank. So my question was, were they near that bottle that had been found the previous day?
And how did they miss them?
The policeman confirmed this. And I said, but then why weren't they found all together?
At the same time, yeah.
Because if you find one item that is relevant, the human reaction, the natural reaction would be, oh,
follow the trail.
You start looking with even more attention. You become much more alert. And mind you, these are rangers. Rangers are trained to see and to observe. They see everything. They missed all of this, knickers, high up in a tree. This policeman told me Well, it had been raining very hard and the river had risen and it was all underwater. Now, I took pictures of these items, and the embassy man who arrived shortly afterwards made some videos with his phone. Everyone thus far who has seen the photographs I took of those items and has seen the videos, they all say, people with forensic training and people who just have common sense, they said, that's nonsense.
They were not underwater.
Those items have not been underwater. And people who know that river say it is totally impossible that that river would rise in one night more than half a meter. Some items were elevated to about half a meter.
But even...
And then go down again the next night.
But my question there is, even if they had been in the water, what was their conclusion there? How did they end up in the water? Did they...
Well, no, that what this policeman said, that was his explanation for the items not being found.
Okay.
See, so the very simple, I mean, I also asked him, before having seen the items myself, could you have been attacked by a wild animal?
Okay.
And he said, I do not think that's very likely, because in that case, you would see blood traces, you would see signs of a struggle, and you would find remains. And to this day, remains have never been found. There is no blood on those torn pieces of textile. They were investigated later in the Netherlands for blood traces. None were found. Then I asked him, could she have been attacked by a human? Again, he said, I don't think that's very likely because humans do not go there. Now that is disputable afterwards. I mean, there is a ranger path, there are illegal fishermen. You cannot say humans never go there. But then the thinking was very simple. Also, as it was reported in the papers here, that Friday already, they had some articles in the various papers here. You know, someone gets lost in a wild park. Now, in a wild park, you have wild animals. And of course, wild animals are ready 24/7 to devour everything that comes inside, which of course is not true. But that's the thinking. So authorities, both here and I must admit also in the Netherlands, they went into a tunnel vision. Items were found along the riverbank. She went into the river, she committed suicide. But where's the body?
Where's the body? After 3 years.
After more than 3.5 years now, a body will come up after a couple of days. And it is not that that river is entirely infested with crocodiles and who will eat everything inside. I mean, I've spoken with a wildlife expert at length, and he happens to know a lot about Nile crocodiles, and he said, I don't think it's very likely that she would have been attacked by a crocodile, at least not on land. But then if that would have happened, it must have been a huge, huge crocodile, and then no one would have seen this 6 meters or longer crocodile. Smaller ones would not attack such a big, I mean an adult
no traces
person.
of blood. I mean, in that, you should have left, you know. But then I would want to know then when authorities come in, because we haven't seen them come in for a while, whether it is the game reserve or...
As the one ranger whom I spoke with later, who was present, as he put it, response was not very fast. Senior management of Ugandan Wildlife Authority and police didn't arrive on the scene until Friday, which is the day I arrived, which is the day the representative of the embassy arrived, and they were aware of that. Then on Saturday, which is day 4, Wednesday she disappears, is day 1.
Friday.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, day 4, they bring in dogs. But in the morning, the dogs don't even have Sophia's scent. And again, I have spoken at length with a dog trainer in the Netherlands who trains dogs for all sorts of purposes, and those dogs go all over the world. He said, the fact that they did not have the scent of Sophia in the morning tells me that those dogs were not trained in what they call sample matching. You know, you have a sample,
You smell
and then
it,
the
you
dog is
decide,
supposed to try and match
find
that
it.
scent somewhere.
Okay.
So he said, then there's really no point, because what they will go for then is the freshest, the most
The
recent
next.
scent, and by then the scene of crime, as they call it, had been totally contaminated. On Thursday, people had been walking back and forth. On Friday, tons of people had been walking back and forth, including myself. They also, a scene of crime officers were brought in on Saturday, what we would call forensics. Now, forensics is the first
on response
people you bring in. And last year, I happened to be in Uganda in June, and I read about the murder of MP Abiriga and his driver. And that was in Kampala, okay, but they do not wait 3 days until they bring in a scene of crime officers team. So they jumped to conclusions, went into a tunnel vision, and what I've been trying to do for over 3 years now is get these people out of their tunnel vision.
To find.
And show them, look, there are other scenarios possible. She could have fallen victim to a crime. Maybe she was abducted. I mean, we simply don't know. If you do not know anything, everything is possible.
Okay, so far that's where we stand with. That's where we're going to stop for now. But when we come back in our final part of the chat room, we're going to just have a conclusion in this conversation for now. But you can follow the conversation online. Remember, our handle on Facebook is NBS Chatroom. And if you're on Facebook or Instagram, you can follow us on the Chatroom UG. And as usual, I appreciate the comments and all whatever you have to say on in my inbox and also on the social media platforms. Thank you, thank you, thank you. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. So still having a conversation with Marianne, who is a mother to Sophia. Her daughter went missing in 2015, and to date, she has not had a conclusive answer. No one is giving her a conclusive answer. For her, it feels like people dragged their feet, the necessary people dragged their feet to get substantial information. And it's still puzzling as well for me sitting here. I'm imagining if it is my own loved one that had disappeared, what would I have done? I mean, to what degree would how far would I go? I have no idea. I really don't know. Like they say, God just kind of gives you strength from somewhere that you just never anticipate, because like I said, 1 hour would have me pull out my hair, let alone over 3 years of not knowing where your daughter is. Now, from that time to now, I wanted us to just have a bit of a conclusion into where we are, where you are right now, how much has been done, if there's anything different that has been done or anything that is satisfactory to you or satisfying to you. And then also, who would you want to listen to you? Who would you want to open their door to get something done, something that maybe you would want done but haven't yet had the opportunity to have it done?
Well, first of all, I think there are never enough people who should know about this story. See, I have been fighting for more than 3 years now to convince people that a proper investigation has never taken place, that people jump to conclusions that are not backed up by evidence, that there are really strange things that should be looked into. And slowly but surely, it seems I am managing to convince people to start up a new investigation. I have gotten the Dutch police picking a new interest, willing to look at the file. The file is, I mean, it's a big file. The largest part, I think, I compiled myself. I would like as many people as possible to know about this, especially people who are in positions to help. I've met a lot of people, of course, in the course of my travels. This is now my 10th trip to Uganda. I came here one time because I wanted to come here.
That's where I was going to go to next.
And I have come back 9 times now,
Because you
not
have
by
to.
choice, but because I have to. You know,
And how has that been for you? I'm imagining expenses, I'm imagining emotional.
expenses, yes, it is. I always travel with a little bag in my luggage with Sophia's clothes. I have her passport with me, which is expired now, but the embassy has told me if you would find her, no problem, we have travel documents ready within an hour if need be. There's always the hope that I will not return on my own, but thus far I have traveled back 9 times alone. As I was saying, I've met a lot of people. I've met good people. I have also met people who are really trying to exploit our misery, and they're after money. Money, of course, is an issue. We are not rich people. We are just regular middle-class people. We have friends who are able and willing to help us. And so, as I said, I am starting to poke new interest both in the Netherlands and here. I also want to try and generate new publicity in that area, in the north of Uganda, around the park. Distributing flyers, going on the radio. I have spoken with some church people because I understand the way to reach people in rural Africa is the radio and the church. I have written an article in April, late April, which I submitted to both the Daily Monitor and the New Vision, and it was published. A link can be found. We have a site that is called www.findsophia.org, O-R-G. There is a lot of information to be found on that site, and if people want to contact us, they can also do that through that site. And all in all, I'm not going to give up. It's very hard. I would be lying if I'd say it's really easy for me to keep going and to come back here time and time again.
I was going to ask you what's the hardest thing about making the trips?
Well, you see, I have very mixed feelings about this country. There is also a sense of aversion because I see this country as the country that took our daughter away from us, our Sophia, and it refuses to reveal where she is. But I must do this. I mean, how can I sit on the couch or lead a life with this huge question mark? We are surrounded by question marks and puzzles. And there is, well, again, another poem that's
the one we're going to end with. Okay, so you've had a mother's cry for closure, a mother's cry for answers, and she's been at this for over 3 years and will not give up until she finds answers. So whoever just might have answers, whoever you are, wherever you might be, in the northern part of the country, or in the police, wherever you might be, and you feel you could help to this investigation, please reach out online on findsophia.
www.findsophia.org.
And Sophia is S-O-P-H-I-A.
That's right.
Please reach out. Or you can go to our inbox on Chatroom or my private inbox if you have any questions or any information. Please, let's help a mother find closure. Now, the poem that she's going to read, which is our last poem, is 17 times around
Seven times around the earth. Okay. It was written by a well-known Dutch poet, and it is a liberal interpretation because the original one is longer. But I think it's very illustrative for what people are willing to go through. It is called 7 times around the earth, and it goes 7 times around the earth. if need be, on hands and feet. 7 times to greet that special one who is standing there, laughing, waiting. 7 times around the earth. 7 times across the sea, barely clothed, what would it matter? If I could only bring that person back. 7 times across the sea. 7 times to stand together again.
Ooh, okay. 7 times around the earth. I wish you all the best. All I pray is that the 7 times around the earth gets to turn out positive. That little bag that you travel with for Sophia gets to return 1 time in her hands. I pray for that, whichever the case. And I hope you get to have some help. All right, it's time for us to end the show today. Thank you so much. And I hope we get to find answers. I hope we find the answers that we're looking for. Again, if you have any information, please don't forget to share. Don't hesitate to share. And if you're a person in any form of authority, please, we need your help. We need your help at whatever level you are at. My heart is aching for you right now, but I hope you find closure. It's time for us to end the show right now. And again, thank you so much. Don't forget to download the NBS app so that you don't miss out the chat room until we get to upload the shows on YouTube. We appreciate the love from across the globe. East Africa family, thank you so much. And everybody that loves and watches the chat room, we appreciate you. May God bless you and protect you and your loved ones. For now, though, the news is coming up next. Stay tuned to NBS always. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.